Chosen one. This is not the first time heaven has reached toward you with this message, and that is exactly why your spirit feels the weight of it now. Something inside you already knows this moment carries more than emotion, more than inspiration, more than passing comfort. You are not listening to random words that drift through the air and disappear by nightfall. You are standing in a moment of divine repetition, and repetition from heaven is never empty. When God speaks once, it is power. When He speaks again, it is mercy wrapped around urgency. The second call is not sent because your purpose has weakened, but because your assignment still stands. The second call is proof that what was spoken over your life has not expired. It is still alive. It is still moving. It is still looking for your yes. You have felt this before, have you not? That quiet pull that returns when the noise settles. That pressure in your chest when you try to move on as if nothing sacred has brushed against your soul. That sense that something greater has been circling your life, trying to get your attention, trying to pull you away from delay, trying to rescue you from a version of yourself that has learned to survive but has not yet fully surrendered. You have asked whether it was real. You have wondered whether you imagined it. You have tried to reason away what your spirit recognized immediately. Yet here you are again, hearing the call rise a second time, and deep within you there is a trembling recognition that this is not coincidence. This is divine patience. This is holy persistence. This is the voice of God moving through the cracks of your exhaustion and reaching the part of you that still remembers who you are. You are not like everyone around you, and that difference has cost you. It has cost you comfort. It has cost you easy belonging. It has cost you the luxury of living numb while pretending everything is fine. You have carried questions others do not ask. You have felt burdens others do not notice. You have walked through seasons where you could not explain why the battle was so fierce, why the misunderstanding ran so deep, why every time you tried to settle for less, something in your spirit refused to let you stay there. It is because there is a mark on your life. There is a demand on your future. There is a calling that will not let you make peace with smallness. The world may have called you too intense, too sensitive, too different, too much. But heaven calls you chosen, and the pressure you have felt is often the friction between divine purpose and human fear. Do not dismiss the fact that this message found you again. Many people hear once and turn away. Many feel the stirring and bury it beneath distraction. Many receive a warning, then trade it for convenience because convenience feels easier than transformation. But you are being interrupted again because God is not finished speaking to you. He is not finished correcting your steps. He is not finished reminding you that your life is not meant to be lived at the surface. There is something He has been trying to awaken in you. And the reason this second message feels heavier is because the time for pretending has grown thin. You cannot keep calling the nudge temporary when it has followed you across seasons. You cannot keep naming it stress when it feels like conviction. You cannot keep reducing the sacred to coincidence when your soul knows the difference. There are moments when heaven whispers. And there are moments when heaven repeats itself so clearly that even your fear cannot fully mute it. This is one of those moments. You have delayed things you should have faced. You have tolerated things that have quietly drained your peace. You have negotiated with habits, thoughts, attachments, and patterns that were never designed to carry you into your next season. Yet even now, the tone of this message is not condemnation. It is invitation. It is warning, yes, but warning born from love. It is the hand of God knocking again before doors close that were never meant to remain open forever. It is mercy saying, I am still speaking to you. It is grace saying, you still have time to answer. It is truth saying, stop running from the very thing that was sent to make you free. Chosen one, pay attention to what rises in you as you hear these words. The resistance, the ache, the tears you did not expect, the memory you tried to suppress, the longing you buried under routine, all of it matters. Heaven often exposes what your flesh wants hidden, not to shame you, but to heal you. This second message is finding the places where you have grown tired, skeptical, cautious, and self-protective. It is shining light into corners where disappointment convinced you to lower your expectations. It is calling your spirit back to alertness. You are being asked to wake up, not in panic, but in clarity. Wake up to the fact that your life is carrying more meaning than the enemy wanted you to realize. Wake up to the fact that your battles were not proof of abandonment, but often evidence of significance. Wake up to the fact that the same God who stirred you the first time has returned, not because he forgot what he said, but because he knows how easy it is for wounded hearts to hesitate at the edge of obedience. This is the moment to stop treating divine interruption like background noise. This is the moment to stop brushing off what your spirit keeps recognizing. Let this message land fully. Let it slow you down. Let it search you. Let it challenge every excuse that has kept you half available and half hidden. The call of God on your life does not vanish because you were afraid. It does not weaken because you hesitated. It does not disappear because others failed to understand you. What God has spoken remains alive, and what he repeats carries a seriousness that should move you, not into terror, but into response, not into shame, but into surrender, not into confusion, but into decision. And because your agreement matters, because your response carries power, because there is something holy about making your faith visible. Comment 999 as your sign that you hear heaven calling you again, and you will not ignore this second summons. Hold this close now. The message has returned because your purpose is still before you. The warning has returned because mercy is still protecting you. The voice has returned because God is still claiming what belongs to him. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You are not too late to answer, but you are being asked to answer with your whole heart. The second call has come, and this time you know it is God. Chosen one. The reason this second message feels so piercing is because something in you knows you almost let the warning slip past you. It did not come wrapped in thunder the first time. It did not arrive with the kind of force that leaves no room for denial. It came in a quieter way, the kind of way that asks for discernment, the kind of way that tests whether you are still sensitive enough to notice when God is reaching for you. And that is where the danger began. Not in open rebellion at first, but in subtle neglect. Not in a loud refusal, but in the slow habit of pushing sacred things to the side while telling yourself you would return to them later. Yet later is often where clarity gets buried. Later is where urgency gets dulled. Later is where people begin to forget what their spirit once recognized without hesitation. You know that pattern because you have lived close enough to it to feel its pull. You have seen how easy it is to explain away conviction when life gets noisy. You have seen how quickly a holy interruption can be labeled inconvenient when your mind is already carrying too much. You have seen how the soul can grow tired and start calling its weariness wisdom, when in truth it is simply exhaustion trying to protect itself from one more costly act of surrender. That is why this return matters. Heaven is bringing back what your fear nearly buried. God is putting before you again what distraction tried to steal. The warning you nearly lost has come back because mercy saw you drifting and refused to leave you there. This is where the shadow of Moses begins to move beside your own story. Before there was a deliverer standing before kings. Before there was a staff raised over impossible waters. Before there was a nation following him through wilderness. There was a man living far from the center of what God had planned. Moses had known power once in Egypt, but then came failure, loss, and exile. He ran into the land of Midian carrying the weight of what had gone wrong. And by the time years passed, his days had taken on the shape of routine. Sheep, desert, distance, the wide and quiet life of someone who had once been near something great, and now lived as though that chapter had closed. From the outside, it may have looked stable. From the inside, it may have felt manageable. But manageable is not the same as called. And quiet is not the same as free. That is how warnings are often missed. Not because the person is evil, but because the person has adapted. Moses adapted to the wilderness. You have adapted too. You adapted to disappointment. You adapted to delay. You adapted to carrying less hope so the fall would not hurt as much. You adapted to silence so thoroughly that when the first stirring came, part of you wanted to protect the life you had built around your own caution. Yet God does not measure your future by the place where you settled after pain. He measures it by the purpose He spoke before fear taught you to shrink. So one ordinary day, in the middle of familiar ground, Moses saw something that interrupted the pattern. A bush burned, yet it was not consumed. It would have been easy to glance at it and keep moving, easy to explain it away, easy to stay committed to the practical demands of the day and postpone wonder for another time. But something in him turned aside. Something in him recognized that this interruption deserved attention. And that small turn mattered more than he could have understood in that instant. Scripture says when the Lord saw that he turned aside to look, God called to him out of the bush, Moses, Moses, Exodus chapter 3, verse 4. Do not miss the tenderness and seriousness of that moment. God called his name twice. There is something unmistakable in repetition. It is personal, and it is urgent. It says, I am not speaking into the air. I am speaking to you. That is where your life and Moses' life touch each other now. This message has come a second time because God still calls with intention. He is not casting vague signals into the distance and hoping you notice. He is calling you with precision. He is calling the very part of you that has tried to disappear into routine, into duty, into numb survival. He is calling the self you have hidden beneath responsibility and fatigue. He is calling you out of the life that became acceptable only because it asked less of your courage. The warning you nearly lost was not merely about danger. It was also about destiny. That is what makes it holy. When God warns, He is not only steering you away from destruction, He is also steering you back toward assignment. Moses was not only being called away from obscurity, he was being called toward a task that would demand everything he had avoided. And perhaps that is why the first nudge felt easier to ignore. Because deep down, you sensed that if this was truly God, then something would have to change. The old excuses would have to be exposed. The carefully guarded limitations would have to be confronted. The story you told yourself about why now was not the time would begin to crack. Still, notice this. God did not abandon Moses to his ordinary path simply because the man had spent years far from the center of his calling. He met him there, in the wilderness, in the middle of the workday, in the life Moses had learned to endure. That should steady your heart right now. The fact that you nearly lost the warning does not mean God has lost sight of you. The fact that you almost kept walking does not mean heaven has canceled your name. It means mercy has interrupted you before the loss became permanent. It means grace has spoken again before your spirit hardened around delay. It means the God who met Moses in Midian knows exactly how to meet you in the place where you thought the story had gone quiet. So let this settle into you. What nearly slipped away has returned. What almost became background noise has stepped forward again with unmistakable weight. You are being asked to turn aside and look, to stop, to notice, to admit that the flame is still there and the voice behind it is not done speaking. This warning has come back because your life is still claimed by purpose, and the God who calls your name twice has not changed his mind about you. Chosen one. Once the warning has returned and your eyes begin to open, the next truth arrives with even greater weight. Delay always carries a cost. It is not always loud at first. It does not always break down the door in a single dramatic moment. More often, it works slowly, quietly, almost invisibly, until what once felt urgent begins to feel optional, and what once burned in your spirit begins to cool beneath the habit of postponement. That is why this moment matters so deeply for you. You are not only being asked to hear again, you are being asked to understand what hesitation has been taking from you while pretending to keep you safe. Delay steals clarity before it steals opportunity. It clouds what was once simple. It introduces extra voices, extra fears, extra questions until obedience feels more complicated than it really is. You begin by saying not yet, and before long your spirit grows tired from carrying the tension between what God has shown you and what you still have not done. This is where many chosen ones become heavy. Not because heaven has abandoned them, but because they are dragging the weight of delayed surrender. They are trying to move forward while still resisting the very instruction that would set them free. That inner conflict is exhausting. It drains joy. It weakens courage. It turns small acts of obedience into mountains in the imagination. Moses knew something of that weight. The burning bush was not merely a beautiful moment of revelation. It was the breaking point of delay. Years had passed since Egypt. Years had settled over the wound, over the failure, over the memory of who he had once imagined he might become. In Midian, life had become livable. But destiny was still waiting. When God called him from the bush, Moses did not respond with immediate strength and fearless confidence. He answered with questions, resistance, and reasons. He spoke from the place many of you know well, the place where the soul has learned to protect itself by assuming it is not ready. He had reasons why someone else would be better. He had reasons why his weakness disqualified him. He had reasons why the assignment felt too heavy for his hands. You understand that, because part of you has done the same. You have felt the nudge of God, then answered with your limitations. You have heard the call, then listed your inadequacies. You have sensed that heaven was pressing on a specific area of your life. Yet instead of stepping forward, you began gathering evidence for why the timing was wrong, why the cost was too high, why the assignment belonged to someone stronger, cleaner, braver, more prepared. But that is one of the oldest disguises delay ever wears. It presents itself as humility while quietly preserving disobedience. It sounds careful, thoughtful, even spiritual. Yet underneath it, there is often fear of what obedience will demand. And still, the cost of delay is greater than the cost of obedience. Even when obedience shakes you, delay stretches the wilderness. Delay keeps your peace suspended. Delay makes you live beneath a ceiling that God never intended to remain above you forever. Moses could have remained in Midian, tending what was familiar, protecting himself from the risks of being used greatly. But then Egypt would still cry. The oppressed would still wait, and the man chosen to carry a word of deliverance would remain smaller than his calling. That is the hidden tragedy of delay. It does not affect only you. It touches everything tied to your obedience. When you postpone what God is asking, the ripple travels farther than you think. This is why your spirit has been restless. Not because God is cruel, but because your calling has gravity. Something in you knows you were not made to circle the same mountain of excuse forever. Something in you knows there are conversations you need to have, habits you need to break, steps you need to take, doors you need to close, and doors you need to walk through. The unrest is not always punishment. Often it is mercy refusing to let you become comfortable in a place that can no longer hold your future. The Lord is too faithful to let chosen people sleep forever inside delayed obedience. So do not misread the pressure of this hour. It is not merely pressure. It is invitation with consequence. It is heaven exposing what postponement has been costing you so that you can finally stop calling it harmless. Delay has cost you peace in moments when you could have walked in greater assurance. Delay has cost you time that could have been spent building what matters. Delay has cost you confidence, because every unmade decision teaches fear that it still has authority. But here is the mercy hidden in this message. What has been delayed does not have to remain delayed. What has been postponed does not have to be buried. God is still speaking because the door to respond is still open. As you keep walking through this word, let your heart stay tender. Let your discernment stay awake. And if this message is meeting you where you truly live, let that response become visible in simple ways. You can like this message so more people who are battling hidden delay can find it. You can share it with someone whose spirit needs the same awakening. You can subscribe and stay connected to these words as they continue unfolding. And if you feel led to support this work more deeply, there is also a way to donate through the description so this message can keep reaching the people it was meant to find. Moses did not become useful because he felt fully sufficient. He became useful because God kept speaking until the man could no longer hide behind the language of delay. That is where this section leaves you now. Not condemned, but confronted. Not crushed, but called higher. The cost of hesitation is real, and heaven is loving you enough to show it plainly. What has been waiting on your obedience is still ahead of you, but you will not touch it by standing still in the old conversation with fear. The second message has come because your season of postponement is being challenged, and what God is awakening in you now is stronger than the excuse that tried to hold you back. Chosen one. By now you can feel the pattern becoming impossible to deny. Heaven does not speak into your life without leaving traces. God does not call without also surrounding that call with signs, confirmations, reminders, and moments that keep pressing against your attention until the truth becomes harder to escape than to accept. The problem is not always that there were no signs. The problem is often that you were hurting while they appeared, distracted while they repeated, or afraid of what they would require if you admitted they were real. That is why this section matters. You are being asked to look again, not at your excuses, but at the evidence, not at the fog, but at the fire moving through it. Moses had signs he could not ignore. The burning bush itself was the first interruption. But it did not stand alone. It was not a random wonder with no consequence attached. It was a holy sign carrying a voice, and the voice carried instruction. Then came another sign when Moses doubted his own authority and questioned how anyone would believe that God had truly sent him. The Lord did not respond by flattering his insecurity. He responded by giving him evidence. The staff in his hand became a serpent and then a staff again. His hand changed and was restored, again and again. God met uncertainty with signs that pointed beyond human weakness toward divine backing. Moses was learning something you need to remember now. When God assigns you, He also confirms you. Though not always in the way your fear prefers, you have had your own burning bush moments. Perhaps they did not look dramatic on the outside. Perhaps no one else around you understood why a certain word, a certain interruption, a certain loss, a certain conversation, or a certain stirring in prayer landed with such force. But you knew. Something in you stopped. Something in you turned aside. Something in you sensed that ordinary life had been pierced by sacred meaning. Then, because the call felt costly, you tried to shrink it back down. You told yourself it was just emotion. You said it was only timing. You explained it away as stress, coincidence, or imagination. Yet the sign kept returning in different forms. The same lesson, the same warning, the same pull, the same holy discomfort each time you tried to settle back into the old rhythm. That is how God works with chosen people who are tempted to drift. He repeats the pattern until recognition becomes unavoidable. For Moses, the signs did not end at the mountain. Once he returned to Egypt, the whole landscape became a theater of divine confrontation. Pharaoh hardened himself, but the signs kept increasing. Blood, frogs, darkness, the unraveling of the false confidence that had ruled Egypt for so long. The signs were not only for Pharaoh, they also strengthened Moses because each act of God revealed that the voice from the bush had not lied. Every sign was a message. I am still with you. I am still speaking. I am still acting. I am still greater than what stands against you. Chosen one, look at your own life through that lens. How many times has God confirmed something to you, only for you to hesitate because the opposition looked too strong? How many times has the same truth found you through different doors? A sermon, a scripture, a conversation you did not expect, a burden that would not lift, a door that closed to stop your compromise, a door that opened when you finally surrendered. Signs do not always arrive as spectacle. Many times they arrive as repetition. They come as patterns too precise to ignore and too personal to mistake forever. They come as the same message meeting you in different seasons, in different tones, in different settings, until eventually you have to admit that heaven has been following your hesitation with persistent mercy. And that is where conviction deepens. Because once the signs become clear, neutrality is no longer honest. Once Moses saw what God was doing, he could not return to Midian unchanged. Once you recognize that God has been speaking, you cannot keep calling your delay harmless. The signs are not given to entertain you. They are given to move you. They are given to wake you from passive living. They are given to keep you from mistaking divine patience for divine permission. God is kind, but He is not casual about purpose. When He confirms a word again and again, it is because the matter is alive. It is because your response still matters. It is because your next step is tied to something larger than your comfort. So let this settle in your spirit. The repeated signs around your life are not there to confuse you. They are there to steady you. They are there to expose the places where fear has made you question what God already made clear. They are there to remind you that your assignment is not standing on your strength alone. Moses did not walk into Egypt because he suddenly became fearless. He walked because the signs made it undeniable that God Himself was moving. In the same way, you are not being asked to manufacture confidence out of empty air. You are being asked to remember what God has already shown you and let that remembrance become obedience. And before this section closes, there is one practical note for those who have been struggling not only spiritually but mentally, feeling scattered, drained, unable to focus, and frustrated by how hard it has become to think clearly and stay calm. Some people have found help through an audio product called the Genius Wave or Genius Song, which is presented as a short daily brainwave-based listening experience designed to support focus, creativity, mental clarity, and stress relief in just a few minutes a day. If that seems relevant to you, you can look for the official information in the description or the pinned comment. Please be careful with imitations and fake copies, and only use the official source if you decide to try it. Above all, do not forget this. No tool replaces discernment, prayer, and obedience when God is making His signs clear. Chosen one. Once the signs have become undeniable, the deepest battle is no longer outside you first. It begins within. The voice you tried to silence is the very voice that kept returning when you wanted relief without surrender. It is the voice that rose in the quiet after the noise faded. It is the voice that disturbed your false peace whenever you tried to settle into what God had already outgrown in your life. It is the voice of holy conviction. And conviction is not cruelty. It is mercy refusing to let you become comfortable in spiritual half-light. You tried to silence it because it pressed on the places you wanted left untouched. It would not let your excuses rest. It would not bless your delay. It would not let you call compromise wisdom. It kept speaking because God loved you too much to let you drift away while still believing you were safe. Moses knew this inward struggle with painful clarity. After the burning bush, after the call had been made plain, after the signs had been placed in his hands, he still wrestled with the voice of God because obedience meant confronting everything he had learned to hide behind. Moses did not simply lack information. He had already heard enough to know that the call was real. His struggle was not that God had been vague. His struggle was that obedience would expose the argument he had built around his weakness. He told God that he was not eloquent. He spoke of his limitations, his slowness of speech, his inability to carry such a task. Beneath all of it was the cry of a man who feared being insufficient in the face of an overwhelming assignment. You know that voice too. It does not always come dressed as rebellion. Sometimes it sounds more reasonable than rebellion. It says you are being realistic. It says you are protecting yourself from failure. It says you should wait until you feel stronger, clearer, more qualified, more healed, more certain. It says perhaps the call belongs to someone else. It says perhaps what you sensed was too much, too big, too costly, too holy for someone with your history. But the danger of that inner voice is not only that it doubts you, it quietly doubts God. It treats his choosing as though it were careless. It treats his instruction as though it had not already accounted for your weakness. It treats his presence as though it were not enough to supply what your natural self lacks. That is why the voice of conviction has kept returning. It is not merely trying to make you feel exposed. It is trying to free you from the prison of self-measurement. Moses kept looking at himself, while God kept directing his gaze back to the one who was sending him. The Lord did not build the entire conversation around Moses' natural confidence. He built it around divine presence. He did not say, "You will go because you are flawless." He said, in essence, "You will go because I will be with you." That is the turning point many chosen ones resist, because the flesh would rather be naturally sufficient than supernaturally dependent. Yet calling always leads you toward dependence. It breaks the illusion that you can serve God greatly while remaining hidden inside your own control. There is a reason this message is pressing you now. You have been standing too long in conversations with yourself that were supposed to end the moment God spoke clearly. You have been rehearsing your inability, replaying your insecurity, feeding the story of why this burden cannot belong to you. Meanwhile, the voice of heaven has kept cutting through the noise, not to flatter you, but to steady you. Now therefore go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall speak. Exodus chapter 4, verse 12. Hear the strength and gentleness in that promise. God does not deny the place where Moses feels weak. He answers it. He does not pretend the limitation does not exist. He declares that divine help will meet him there. That same truth reaches for you now. The place where you feel least capable is often the place where obedience will require the greatest trust. And trust is exactly what the resisting voice does not want. It would rather keep you circling your insecurity than stepping into God's sufficiency. It would rather keep you analyzing yourself than yielding to the one who formed you. It would rather keep you spiritually busy, emotionally burdened, and inwardly divided than let you become simple before God again. Because once you truly believe that His presence is enough, many of your excuses begin to lose their power. Moses eventually had to stop arguing long enough to move. Not because every question inside him vanished at once, but because the authority of God's word outweighed the comfort of continued resistance. That is the crossing you are being brought to now. The voice you tried to silence has not disappeared because it was never your enemy. It was your rescue. It was the alarm before the deeper loss. It was the interruption before compromise hardened into identity. It was the holy disturbance that kept your spirit from making permanent peace with what God never approved. So do not despise this inner discomfort. Let it finish its work. Let it uncover the arguments you have repeated so long that they began to sound like truth. Let it challenge every habit of self-protection that has disguised itself as discernment. Let it bring you back to the simplicity of surrender. The issue before you is not whether you can produce enough strength on your own. The issue is whether you will finally stop silencing the God who has already promised to meet you in the very place that makes you feel unready. Chosen one, the voice within that keeps turning you back toward obedience is not there to torment you. It is there to awaken you. It is there to rescue you from the dignity of delay and the exhaustion of divided living. It is there because God is still speaking. And each time He speaks, He is cutting a path through the fog you created around your next step. Moses could not remain forever at the bush, negotiating with the fire, and you cannot remain forever at the edge of your calling, negotiating with conviction. The voice you tried to silence is still speaking because heaven has not withdrawn its claim on your life. And what God wants from you now is not another argument. It is your answer. Chosen one, after all the resistance, after all the excuses, after all the signs that pressed against your hesitation. You now arrive at one of the most beautiful truths in this journey. Mercy still speaks your name. That is why this message has returned instead of fading away. That is why the call still stands instead of collapsing under the weight of your delay. That is why your spirit is still being stirred even after moments when you thought you had already missed too much, resisted too long, or wandered too far into your own uncertainty. Mercy does not speak because your hesitation was small. Mercy speaks because God is greater than your hesitation. This is where the story of Moses becomes even more tender. By every human measure, he had already given God enough reasons to choose someone else. He questioned, he resisted, he argued from insecurity. He looked at his weakness again and again as though weakness had the final word. Yet the Lord continued speaking. He answered, he reassured, he provided. He even gave Aaron to stand beside Moses in the early part of the assignment. None of that means resistance was ideal. None of it means delay carried no cost. But it does reveal something profound about the heart of God. The Lord did not abandon Moses at the first sign of trembling. He did not cast him aside because fear still clung to him. He continued drawing him forward because mercy was still at work. That matters for you more than you may realize. There are people who assume that a second call means disappointment from heaven and nothing more. They hear correction and imagine only anger. They feel conviction and assume rejection is close behind. But this message is proof of something better. Mercy is still calling your name because your story has not been discarded. God is not speaking to you again because He delights in watching you struggle. He is speaking again because He intends to bring you through the struggle and into obedience. He is speaking again because He knows how wounded hearts pause at thresholds. He is speaking again because what He placed over your life still matters. You have been tempted to confuse your pauses with disqualification. You have been tempted to look at the moments where fear slowed you down and conclude that heaven must now be finished with you. But if God were finished, this word would not still be reaching you. If mercy had stepped back entirely, you would not still feel the ache of conviction. If grace had abandoned the conversation, your spirit would not still react when truth comes near. The fact that this message can still pierce you is evidence that the door has not closed. The fact that you can still feel the tug of God is evidence that He is still dealing with you as His own. Think again of Moses on the road between Midian and Egypt. He was not walking as a polished hero, he was walking as a man still being shaped in motion. He had said yes, but there was still fear in him. There was still a long road ahead. There were still confrontations he could not yet imagine fully. Yet the mercy of God did not wait until Moses became internally perfect before moving with him. Mercy traveled with him. Mercy strengthened him along the way. Mercy kept speaking in the middle of the assignment. Not only at the beginning of it, that should quiet the lie that tells you God only helps those who begin boldly. No, He helps those who keep yielding. He helps those who keep returning. He helps those who stop running from the voice that loves them enough to correct them. This is why you must not despise this second summons. It carries an invitation that many never fully recognize until much later. To be corrected by God is mercy. To be warned before greater loss is mercy. To be stirred again after numbness tried to settle over your soul is mercy. To have your conscience awakened before compromise hardens into identity is mercy. There are moments when grace feels gentle like rain, and there are moments when grace feels strong like a hand turning your face back toward the light. Both are love, both are care. Both are God refusing to leave you where you are. And there is another layer to this that you need to hold carefully. Mercy does not only restore your future, it also restores your sight. It helps you see that what felt like divine silence was often divine patience. It helps you realize that God was not absent during the season of your confusion. He was watching, guarding, restraining, and preparing moments like this one so you could hear with greater seriousness than before. Some of the very things that did not work in your life were mercies you did not recognize at the time. Some closed doors were mercies. Some restless nights were mercies. Some interruptions that frustrated you were mercies. God has been speaking in more ways than one, and now the message is becoming plain enough that your spirit can no longer pretend not to understand. So let this truth soften you instead of hardening you. Do not meet mercy with more argument. Do not answer grace with another round of delay. Let the kindness of God lead you where fear has kept you from going. Let His patience humble you. Let His repeated call heal the part of you that thought one slow response had ruined everything. What He wants now is not your performance. It is your surrender, not your polished image, but your open heart. Not your endless explanations, but your willingness to move when He says move. And as this message continues to reach the people it was meant to find, there is a simple way to help carry it further without forcing anything. You can like this message so it reaches those who are quietly struggling under the weight of delay and hidden fear. You can share it with someone whose spirit has been growing tired and needs to hear that mercy still speaks. You can subscribe if you want to stay close to these unfolding words and continue walking through this journey together. And for those who feel genuinely led to support this work in a deeper way, there is also a donation option in the description, offered simply as a way to help this message continue reaching the hearts it is meant to reach. But come back now to the center of what heaven is saying. Mercy still speaks because the matter is not over. Mercy still speaks because your calling has not been erased. Mercy still speaks because God is not trying to humiliate you. He is trying to gather you. He is trying to steady you. He is trying to pull you out of the inner maze where fear has kept you circling the same questions. Moses learned that the God who called him was also the God who walked with him. You are learning the same thing now. This second message is not a sign that you are beyond hope. It is proof that hope is still pursuing you. It is proof that grace still has your name in its mouth. It is proof that even now, after the delays and the doubts, heaven is still speaking. And this time you are meant to hear it as mercy. Chosen one, mercy has brought you this far. But mercy is not meant to leave you standing in the same place forever. There comes a moment when the soul can no longer remain suspended between what God has said and what fear prefers. There comes a point where the decision in front of you becomes too weighty to keep treating as tomorrow's problem. That is where Moses stood when the path narrowed and the pressure rose. That is where you stand now. You are at the edge of a moment that will reveal whether you trust the God who called you or whether you will keep measuring the future by what your natural eyes can see. Moses knew what it meant to stand in front of an impossible scene. He had already obeyed enough to leave Midian. He had already gone before Pharaoh. He had already spoken the word God put in his mouth. He had already watched the power of God confront the arrogance of Egypt. Yet obedience did not remove the presence of terrifying moments. In some ways, it led him straight into one. The people of Israel came out of bondage, but their freedom did not immediately feel safe. Behind them came Pharaoh and his army. Before them stretched the Red Sea. On both sides, no easy escape. It was the kind of moment that exposes what is still living inside the heart. The people looked and saw danger. They looked and saw a trap. They looked and felt panic rising like floodwater within them. You know that feeling? You know what it is to obey to a certain point and then find yourself facing a scene that seems to mock the very promise that called you forward. You know what it is to think that if God truly led you, why does the way ahead look blocked? Why does the pressure feel greater now than before? Why does obedience sometimes lead to a place where there is no visible path at all? These are the moments where hidden unbelief tries to dress itself in practical language. It tells you that the closed sea means you misunderstood. It tells you that the advancing enemy means your obedience failed. It tells you that you should have stayed in the place of bondage because at least bondage was familiar. That was the temptation at the edge of the sea. Not merely fear of death, but longing for the predictability of old captivity. And that is where this message becomes deeply personal for you. There are times when the old life starts looking attractive again, not because it was truly good, but because it did not require the same kind of trust. Bondage often offers false stability. Freedom often begins with trembling. The old patterns in your life, the old agreements, the old compromises, the old ways of thinking may not have brought peace, but they brought familiarity. Standing before your Red Sea means that familiarity is breaking apart, and the soul has to choose whether to go back in panic or stand still long enough to witness the hand of God. This is what makes defining moments so severe and so sacred. They strip away your rehearsed language. They reveal what you really believe about God when there is no easy human solution left. Moses could not create a bridge with cleverness. He could not talk the sea into moving by charisma. He could not negotiate with Pharaoh behind him or engineer safety with his own strength. He had to face the limit of human control and remain under the authority of divine instruction. That is where many chosen ones tremble most. They can handle a journey while there are still visible supports. They can move when they still have backup plans. But at the edge of the sea, backup plans die. The only thing left is trust. Hear the word that came in that crisis. Fear ye not, stand still, and see the salvation of the Lord. Exodus chapter 14, verse 13. That was not a command to become passive in unbelief. It was a command to stop surrendering to panic. It was a command to stop letting fear narrate reality. It was a command to hold position until the Lord made the next movement clear. There is holy strength in that. Sometimes standing still before God is harder than running back to what is familiar. Sometimes calm trust requires more courage than frantic motion. Moses had to become steady enough to hold the people in place while heaven prepared a path they could not yet imagine. Chosen one, you are learning that the edge is not the end. The place where you feel pinned in is often the place where God is about to reveal himself with greater clarity than before. But you cannot read the edge correctly while listening to fear alone. Fear will always interpret the sea as proof of abandonment. Faith learns to see the sea as the stage where God makes his power known. Fear says there is no way. Faith says the way may not exist yet, but God is not limited by what is visible. Fear says go back. Faith says wait for instruction. Fear says you are trapped. Faith says you are being positioned for a deliverance that could never be mistaken for human effort. This is why your current pressure feels so decisive. It is not only about escape from danger. It is about the formation of trust. At the bush, Moses learned that God could call him. In Egypt, he learned that God could confront power. At the sea, he learned that God could open what no man could open. Your own journey mirrors that pattern. There are lessons about God that can only be learned when the path ahead is shut and the enemy behind is loud. There are revelations of divine faithfulness that only become visible when your own strength has nowhere left to lean. So do not despise the edge, even while it shakes you. Do not assume that pressure means you have been led wrong. Some of the clearest miracles in Scripture were born in moments that looked most impossible to natural sight. Moses was not abandoned at the water. He was being brought into a revelation that would mark him and the people forever. You are not abandoned in this defining hour either. You are being brought to the threshold where trust stops being language and becomes your posture. The sea is in front of you. The old life presses from behind. The moment is real. The decision is weighty. But the God who called you to this place has not lost his power, and what feels like the end of the road may become the opening of the path. Chosen one, this is the moment where everything begins to turn, because one step of obedience in the hands of God can do more than years of fearful hesitation ever could. You have already seen the signs. You have already felt the warning. You have already stood at the edge where fear tried to convince you that there was no path forward. But the miracle was never waiting for your perfect confidence. It was waiting for your agreement. It was waiting for the moment when you would stop letting fear speak last and start moving under the word of God. That is where Moses stood, and that is where you stand now. The difference between bondage and breakthrough often looks smaller than people expect. Sometimes it is one act of trust, one surrendered decision, one step taken while your knees are still shaking. Moses had already heard the command to move. The people had already cried out. The sea was still before them. The army was still behind them. Nothing in the visible scene suggested ease. Nothing in the natural suggested comfort. Yet God was not asking Moses to explain the outcome before obeying the instruction. He was asking him to act. There are moments in life when understanding comes after obedience, not before it. This is one of those moments. The Lord was not giving Moses a detailed blueprint of every drop of water and every inch of seabed before the miracle began. He was giving him a word, and that word required motion. This is why so many chosen ones remain stuck for longer than necessary. They wait for complete emotional certainty before they obey. They wait for every question to disappear. They wait for fear to leave the room. They wait for a future sign that confirms the signs they have already been given. But spiritual movement rarely works that way. God often unlocks the next piece of clarity after the first act of obedience. The one who keeps standing still, demanding total explanation, may remain at the same shoreline while the one who trusts God begins to see the waters part. That is not because God loves one more than the other. It is because obedience is the doorway through which revelation often walks. Moses learned that in a way he could never forget. He had spoken before kings. He had witnessed plagues. He had carried the burden of leading people who were quick to fear and slow to trust. But now the lesson became personal, in an even deeper way. He had to raise the rod. He had to move under divine instruction while the pressure of the moment bore down on him. That is what holy obedience looks like. It does not always feel dramatic from the inside. Sometimes it feels costly, exposed, and painfully simple. You just do what God said, not because the whole picture is visible, but because the voice is trustworthy. Listen to the promise carried in Scripture. The Lord shall fight for you, and ye shall hold your peace. Exodus chapter 14, verse 14. That verse does not call you into laziness. It calls you out of panic. It reminds you that your obedience is not the same thing as carrying the whole battle on your back. Moses still had to act, but God was the one who made the sea stand aside. This is where your heart must settle. You are responsible for your yes. God is responsible for his power. You are responsible for obedience. God is responsible for what obedience unlocks. When you confuse those roles, fear grows stronger. When you remember them, peace begins to return. There are areas of your life where this truth is pressing urgently. Perhaps it is a habit God has told you to break. Perhaps it is a step of discipline you have delayed. Perhaps it is a conversation you need to have, a door you need to close, a path you need to take, a compromise you need to leave behind. You may keep looking at the scale of the waters and wondering how anything will change. But the turning point is not found in staring harder at the obstacle. It is found in obeying what God already said. One aligned step can shift more than endless mental wrestling. One decision under God can break years of inner paralysis. And once that movement begins, things start changing not only around you but within you. Obedience clears the fog. Obedience quiets some of the voices that only survive in indecision. Obedience teaches your soul that fear is not your master. Obedience reminds you that you are not abandoned at the edge. It is often after the first step that strength rises in ways you did not know were available to you. Moses did not need courage for an imaginary future only. He needed courage for the next instruction. As he obeyed, God met him there. The same pattern stands before you now. Do not underestimate what heaven can do with one sincere act of surrender. The enemy wants you to think only giant public victories matter. But many great deliverances begin in private obedience. They begin when a person finally stops arguing with conviction. They begin when someone chooses prayer over numbness, truth over denial, discipline over drift, surrender over self-protection. The sea may still look wide when you begin, but it will not remain closed forever if God has spoken a way through it. So let your response become simple and real. If this word is meeting you at the point of decision, comment "I obey now." Let those words mark the place where hesitation starts losing ground. Chosen one, the path opens as obedience moves. Moses did not part the sea by talent, and you will not unlock your future through human striving alone. But when God gives a word and you answer it, heaven moves in ways that flesh cannot manufacture. This is why the second message came back to you. Not merely so you could feel stirred again, but so you could move. Not merely so you could admire truth, but so you could enter it. One step changes everything when that step is taken with God. The water does not have the final word. Fear does not have the final word. Delay does not have the final word. The God who speaks still makes a way, and your obedience is the place where that way begins to appear. Chosen one, once the sea has opened and obedience has carried you through what once looked impossible, another truth rises with quiet force. Deliverance is not the end of the journey. It is the beginning of separation. God does not bring you out of bondage so you can keep thinking, speaking, and living as though Egypt still owns your inner world. He does not break chains merely to watch you drag their memory into every new place He leads you. This is where many people misunderstand freedom. They think leaving the place is the same as leaving the pattern. They think distance from the old life automatically means transformation from the old self. But Moses learned, and now you must learn, that coming out is only the first mercy. Becoming different is the deeper work. Moses did not merely lead people across water. He led them away from an identity shaped by oppression. For generations, Egypt had taught them how to think small, how to expect control, how to live under pressure, how to survive without truly trusting God. Even after the sea closed behind them, Egypt still lingered in their imagination. That is why freedom can feel so strange at first. The body may have left the place of bondage, but the mind still turns back toward what was familiar. The soul remembers the routines of captivity and, in weak moments, starts calling them comfort. This is not because bondage was good. It is because the unknown demands faith, and faith feels far less manageable than old chains you already understand. You know this struggle more than you may want to admit. There are parts of your old life that no longer fit who God is calling you to become, yet they still try to speak with authority. Old patterns of fear, old reactions, old attachments, old versions of yourself built around rejection, compromise, distraction, bitterness, passivity, or secret grief. You may have already crossed one sea in your life. You may have already seen God do what only He could do. But now comes the quieter question. Will you keep carrying Egypt inside you? Or will you let God teach you how to live as someone truly brought out? This is why separation can feel lonely even when it is holy. When Moses led Israel into the wilderness, they were no longer under Pharaoh, but they were not yet settled in promise. They were in between. And the in-between place is where identity is tested. It is where old cravings become loud. It is where the heart reveals what it still leans on when comfort is removed. Many people want the miracle of escape without the process of transformation. They want the Red Sea moment, but not the wilderness lessons that strip old mentalities away. Yet God knows that promise cannot be carried safely by people who are still in love with their chains. That is why the call now is not merely to celebrate what you left. It is to release what still clings to you. Moses could not lead a free people while blessing the instincts of slavery every time they rose. Again and again, the people looked backward with distorted memory. They remembered Egypt as though oppression had somehow been easier than trust. That is what the old self does when it begins losing power. It edits the past. It makes bondage sound simpler than obedience. It tells you that compromise was not so costly, that numbness was not so dangerous, that smallness was not so suffocating. But that voice lies. Egypt did not feed the soul. It only trained it to live beneath its calling. Hear the truth of Scripture in this hour. Remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Exodus chapter 13, verse 3. That command is powerful because remembrance shapes identity. God told them to remember the day of release so they would not romanticize the place He had delivered them from. In the same way, you must remember clearly what your old life did to your peace, your clarity, your hunger for God, your courage, your sense of purpose. Do not remember it through the softness of nostalgia. Remember it through the truth of bondage. Remember what it cost you to stay there. Remember the prayers you cried in secret. Remember the heaviness, the confusion, the inner shrinking. Let memory become protection, not temptation. Chosen one. Separation is not punishment. It is preparation. When God removes you from what once defined you, He is not diminishing your life. He is making room for the self that can walk with greater authority, greater purity, and greater peace. Moses understood that the people could not belong to Egypt and to the promise at the same time. The old system had to lose its claim. The old masters had to stay buried behind the waters. And now the same spiritual reality stands before you. Some habits must remain behind you. Some voices must remain behind you. Some agreements must remain behind you. Some identities must remain behind you. You cannot carry every old version of yourself into the future God is shaping. This does not mean the process is instant. The wilderness proves that God works patiently, layer by layer, teaching dependence where pride once ruled, teaching trust where panic once ruled, teaching worship where survival once ruled. But patience is not permission to keep secretly longing for captivity. The direction must remain clear. Forward. Away from bondage. Away from compromise. Away from the inner Egypt that still tries to whisper when you are tired. Moses kept leading because he understood that even when the people struggled, the right direction was not backward. So let this settle deeply into your spirit. The old you cannot be your shelter anymore. The former mindset cannot be your counselor anymore. The chains God broke cannot become your comfort anymore. You were not brought through the waters so you could spend your future bargaining with your past. You were brought out so you could become someone new under the hand of God. Moses led a people away from the house of bondage. But the deeper invitation was always this: become free enough within that you no longer ache for what once enslaved you. That is the holy separation happening in you now. Egypt is behind you. The old self is losing ground, and the God who brought you out is still leading you forward. Chosen one, now you stand at the final threshold of this journey, and the question before you is no longer hidden. It is not buried beneath confusion. It is not disguised by delay. It is not softened by the comfort of pretending you still do not know what heaven has been saying. The choice is before you in full light. Crown or compromise? Obedience or retreat? Forward with God or backward into the old conversation with fear? This is where everything gathers into one sacred moment, not because your entire life is decided in a single breath, but because there are moments that reveal what direction your heart will take when the voice of God has become unmistakably clear. Moses knew this kind of moment well. After the bush, after Egypt, after the sea, after the wilderness lessons, after every battle between trust and fear, one truth remained. The journey with God always asked for renewed surrender. No one becomes chosen by living half in and half out forever. No one carries holy purpose while continually feeding compromise in secret. Moses was not called to flirt with Egypt while leading people toward promise. He was called to stand in a clean direction, however costly that direction felt. And this is the place where your own spirit is being brought now. You are being asked to stop negotiating with what God already told you to leave behind. Compromise always speaks with a soft voice at first. It does not usually announce itself as destruction. It presents itself as relief. It says, rest here a little longer. It says this one small agreement will not matter. It says you can carry your calling and still keep that hidden pattern, that hidden attachment, that hidden excuse. It says you do not have to be fully surrendered to remain safe. But compromise never stays small. What begins as a tolerated corner becomes a quiet influence. And what becomes a quiet influence eventually starts shaping your direction. This is why heaven has been so persistent with you. Not because God is trying to make your life narrow and joyless, but because He knows what compromise steals long before you admit the loss. The crown before you is not a crown of pride, applause, or earthly image. It is the dignity of obedience. It is the peace that comes when your inner life stops fighting the truth. It is the strength that grows when your spirit is no longer divided. It is the beauty of becoming aligned with what God has spoken instead of staying fractured by the voice of fear. This crown costs something, yes, but compromise costs more. Compromise drains authority. It weakens clarity. It steals intimacy. It leaves people looking alive on the outside while inwardly burdened by the strain of resisting what they already know is right. The crown of obedience may ask for tears, sacrifice, and courage, but it leaves the soul clean. Moses was never crowned by ease. He was marked by obedience across difficulty. His life carried glory because he kept returning to the voice of God. Even through pressure, even through resistance, even through the weight of leadership, even through the moments when the people themselves could not understand the path. That is how true spiritual authority is formed. Not through image, but through surrender. Not through convenience, but through trust. And that same formation is happening in you now. You are not being invited into performance. You are being invited into wholeheartedness. You are being invited into a life where your yes is no longer fragmented. So let this become prayer as naturally as breath. Father, in this holy moment, I bring before you the one listening now. You have spoken more than once. You have called with patience, mercy, and truth. You have warned, comforted, corrected, and drawn near. I ask that every chain of delay be broken. Let every fog of confusion begin to lift. Where fear has spoken loudly, let your voice become clearer still. Where compromise has tried to settle in secret, bring light, conviction, and freedom. Heal the weary places in this heart. Strengthen the trembling places, restore what delay has drained. Give this soul courage to obey you fully and peace to leave behind what no longer belongs in this next season. Let the same God who met Moses in the wilderness meet this listener now. Let the same God who opened the sea make a path where none is visible. Let the same God who brought your people out of bondage bring this chosen one into deeper freedom, deeper purity, deeper trust, and deeper purpose. Guard them from deception. Guard them from retreat. Guard them from every voice that would pull them back into the old life, and let obedience become beautiful to them again. In every hidden place, let your will be done. Amen. Chosen one, receive that prayer not as poetry alone, but as agreement with what heaven has been pressing into your life from the beginning of this message. You are not being asked to carry this moment by yourself. God is not only calling you forward, He is offering His presence in the step. That is why the final choice is both serious and full of hope. You do not have to become mighty before you obey. You become steadier as you obey. You become clearer as you obey. You become freer as you obey. And if this message has walked with you, searched you, and strengthened you through these sections, there are simple ways to help it reach the next person who may be standing in the same battle. You can like this message so it continues traveling outward. You can share it with someone who needs this second call from heaven. You can subscribe and remain part of this ongoing stream of encouragement and truth. And for those who feel sincerely led to support this work more deeply, there is a donation option in the description to help carry these messages further. Now hold the center of it all. The crown before you is not far away. It is found in the next honest act of obedience. It is found in choosing truth over comfort, surrender over delay, faith over fear, and God over every lesser voice. Moses kept moving because the one who called him was faithful. You can move for the same reason. Let compromise fall away. Let obedience rise. Let your spirit stand clean before God. The message came twice because mercy wanted to reach you before the moment passed. But now you have heard, now you know, and now the path before you is clear. Choose the crown. The journey has been long, but not empty. Every warning, every sign, every moment of conviction carried purpose. You were never being chased by fear alone. You were being pursued by mercy. The same God who called Moses out of the wilderness has been calling you out of delay, out of compromise, out of the inner Egypt that tried to keep your spirit small. And now, after all that has been spoken, let peace settle over you, not the peace of avoidance, but the peace of surrender, not the peace of hiding, but the peace of finally agreeing with God. Carry this message gently, but carry it seriously. Return to it when your courage feels thin. Return to it when the old voice tries to make compromise sound harmless again. Return to it when you need to remember that heaven does speak more than once, and that the second call is often one of the greatest mercies a soul can receive. You are not forgotten. You are not disqualified. You are not abandoned in the middle of your becoming. Keep walking. Keep obeying. Keep trusting the God who still makes a way.